Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're going to be taking a look at another new knife, and this one here is none other than the NAFSCO Lander. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length of 6.4 inches, with a blade length coming in at 2.75 inches, and a blade width of 848 thousandths. Blade thickness on this guy is a rather slim 100 thousandths with D2 blade steel, a drop point style blade, and a flat grind. We have a handle length coming in at 3.65 inches and a handle thickness at 412 thousandths. That is obviously just the handle, not including this clip, which is substantially high on this knife. We have a handle width of 774 thousandths and a handle material of G10 with a user of a right hand or left hand tip up carry and a weight coming in at 2.4 ounces. Designed by the one and only Ben Peterson. A lot of you guys probably know him from Blade HQ. He's a pretty well-known figure, a very well-known figure in the knife community. And he's doing his own thing now with NAFSCO. And we have a price coming in at $58. So $58 that's really right on that price for me, to where even with D2 and G10, if the knife's good enough, I'm okay with it. And yeah, spoiler alert, I'm okay with it. So because it is good enough. And let's take a look at some size comparisons here real quick and see how it stacks up to some other well-known EDC knives. And we'll start off with this one because it's kind of like almost a must, especially with a knife this size. The Civivi Elementum. Although I feel like it may finally be the time for the Elementum, it's really calming down. You don't see a whole lot of it. I mean, it's definitely not what it used to be, but it's still almost a universally recognized EDC knife. So you always have to throw that in there. And then these are the two you all came to see, right? If you know who Ben Peterson is, if you know his designs, these are what you want to see right here. We have the wee banter, and we have the baby banter. This is what you're here for. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? But yeah, as you can see, very much in the middle of these two. And in terms of overall size, it's smaller than the banter than one might think. Obviously, it looks closer in length, but this feels a lot smaller than the banter. The banter is a wider knife, so it feels different in the hand. But definitely very similar design language between these three, which I like because I like the banner and I love the baby banner. And gosh darn it, I don't know yet. I definitely like the Lander better than the banter, but I'm really stuck between these two because I absolutely love the baby banter. I think it's one of the best fifth pocket knives ever designed. So I just don't know on if I like it more than that yet. But what I do like is a lot of things about this knife. And we'll start with the blade. Because I have to say, when this design came out, I wasn't exactly over the moon about it. It looked like just another average design. It didn't look anything too special. And I thought, okay, well, that's cool. I mean, it is still different. I had a lot of people, when I posted my video on the knives I got from Blade Show, I had a couple people say, like, oh, it looks like this, it looks like that. Someone said it was just another Ontario Rat 2. And I was like, what? Haters are going to hate on that one. I don't see any Ontario Rat 2 in this. Like, I didn't get that at all. I think it's actually pretty unique in its own right. I mean, yeah, it's a small drop point blade it's a small drop point bladed knife. There's a lot of those out there, but there really is a touch of uniqueness to this, just in the subtle lines and just the overall curvature of the knife, to where I do think it's rather unique, which is pretty impressive nowadays when there's a lot of sub 3-inch drop point bladed knives. So I like that. And I really like this blade because it has a very nice edge. It's coming in around 17 to 18 thousandths. I think my calipers might be getting a hair off. I got to figure out how to maybe correct those, because my caliper said 17 thousandths. It may be, I would say, somewhere between 17 to 19 thousandths, but we're still in the teens, and that's still a pretty darn good edge, especially for a $58 budget knife. Really like the performance of this blade, like how it's cut through cardboard and paper just fine. It's got some nice grippy jimping up here. Not a lot, just enough to really, like, if you actually have to really bear down and push your thumb in, that's when it works best. Other than that, it's it's not something that you're going to feel every single time you go to use the knife, because usually my thumb's going to be like right here. But if you really have to put a little more force into it, it's pretty decent jimping. The thumb studs on this blade are very perfect in terms of placement, in terms of pretty much everything. It makes it very effortless to flip this blade out, and got a lot to say about the action when we get to that. But first, the handle and ergos on this. And this is where things get pretty nice too, because the ergos are very good. In terms of the handle shape and length and width and all that good stuff, it feels great in my hand. The one thing that I don't love about this knife is I think it has too big of a clip. I don't have a huge issue with this clip. I really thought this was going to be more bothersome than it was, especially as high up as it is. I thought for sure I was going to feel that more. And I do feel it, but it really isn't annoying. It's not a hot spot. It's kind of whatever. But I do just think, yeah, I wish that would be a bit smaller of a clip. And looking at it, I feel like, no, that's pretty much the same clip too. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to get maybe a slightly smaller clip for this. But the clip does still work, and it works pretty darn well. And it also gives me a good place to kind of brace my fingers. Like, I love this grip area. This is basically what a titanium milled clip does for me. Makes it very easy to kick that blade out. So it does work in that regard, but I think even a smaller clip would still work pretty well for that. So, yeah. But now the handle scales. This is pretty unique. What you can do if you have a 3D printer, or if you're just a crafty person in general and want to try making your own, you can go to, I'm assuming it's nafsco.com, whatever Ben's website is. If I can find the link to download the scales, I will include them in the description of this video. But you can actually go online, download the exact files to make these scales, and make your own. So if you have a 3D printer, or if you're just really, really good and skilled with various tools to make scales, you can make your own lander scales, and that's awesome. That's a first. I've never heard of that anywhere else. I've heard now, and these also come on and off really quick. So what you have here, and this is where it's kind of similar to a knife like the TRM Atom, where these two screws, you take these two screws out, you can quickly pop the scale off and pop a new scale on. You don't have to mess with the pivot. You do have to take these two back screws off too, because as you can see there, obviously that's going through the G10. So yeah, you have to take off these two screws, 4 screws, but you don't have to mess with the pivot, and that's what takes the time and the real labor into reassembling something and disassembling it. But you don't have to do that. The knife stays complete. You pop off the screws, you change the scale. It's a beautiful thing. I love that. I wish damn near every knife could do that, because it makes life a lot easier, especially when you have access to a lot of cool different types of scales. And the fact that you can make your own scales for this is super unique, something that I really, really like, and I hope we can continue to see this on other knives. I think Ben may have started something there. I really hope that's the case, but we'll see. To me, it's a huge selling point. Not for me personally, because I don't have a 3D printer and I don't know how to make custom scales, but I love the fact that he's that transparent. And I think it's a great selling point. I just think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm pretty surprised that it's never been done before. Again, we're getting into a more competitive industry, and you got to do things like that to stay ahead and get noticed. And I think he nailed it with that idea. I think it's a great idea. Now, going into the action on this guy, this is just phenomenal. Obviously, it's on bearings, and what's really surprising is immediately when I picked this up, it felt very similar to the Banter in terms of action, and I thought, oh, well, it would make sense. I've always kind of felt like Ben has a good relationship with Wii. Not that I know anything, secretive or anything real personal about that, but I've always just felt like he's had a good relationship with Wii since his first 2 designs came from Wii and Civivi. I thought, oh, this is definitely a Wii-made knife. No. This is made by QSP. Now, in terms of the action being fantastic, that doesn't surprise me, because QSP is a fantastic OEM producer. I've seen them make a lot of knives for other designers, and they do a great job. I just wasn't expecting to hear that. But being on bearings, the middle finger flicking action is fantastic. The thumb flicking action is excellent. I have 0 complaints about the action of this knife. It is Super impressive, very enjoyable. The size of this handle fits extremely well in my hand, and it's just a breeze to operate, and it's a great knife to fidget with. Yeah, if someone thought this looks like the Ontario Rat 2, you should definitely get this in hand, because it will not feel like the Ontario Rat 2 when you go to do the action. I know the Rat 2 has decent action. This blows the Rat 2 out of the water. It's not even close. There's not a lot of knives at $58 that are close to this action and feel, and I really like the design. It's a nice, simple design. Another very clean design from Ben. So this is a great one. I would 100% recommend this, and I wouldn't be surprised if this snuck in somewhere at the Knife of the Year Awards at the end of the year. I don't know. That's gonna be tough. That is gonna be tough, because there are some excellent, amazing knives in the $50-ish range for this year. But we will see. Nonetheless, this is one I would highly recommend, and it'll all be linked below. The Knives Co. Lander. Guys, if you want a small little EDC knife, look no further than this guy, especially for 58 bucks. Hell of a deal. Great knife. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.